Hello everyone, this is a short recording to validate a reported problem with file editing in Agentic Chat. This happens when edit file as a tool call needs to have read the context before that. So could be read file, could be read files. There's an analysis or like a bug report here, some tests, and a validation of how to reproduce it, and our engineering teams were so kind to look into that and also work on a fix. So the fix has been released in 657.1 in the Visual Studio Code extension, and we will look into this shortly. For context, this is issue number 16, which we will reference in a bit. It's modernizing Java 8 to Java 21 code. It's part of a different agent platform field enablement demo use case that we created last week. Now let's switch into Visual Studio Code, and you can see I already upgraded the version. We have Agentic Chat on the right hand side, and for debugging purposes I have the GitLab language server with debug enabled in order to watch what's happening. So can you help me with issue 16? My expectation now is it fetches the context or the content of that issue, reads that, understands that it needs to modernize the source code, and now it's listing the Java files. We can see it reads the pom.xml, which is the Maven build configuration, and starts with the modernization strategy. And now this is the key point here. We actually want to see it's editing the files. The pom.xml worked before that, and now it wants to convert the model classes to records. The model classes are 3, so the expectation is that it reads uses read files with an S, and then kind of modifies that with edit file. And we can see it was successful. So it read the files, it edits the files. We can see the diff loading in. And it's continuing the use case. I could stop the recording now, but it's also interesting to watch watch it continue. Let's quickly scroll down. You can see it's actually pretty fast now. It has updated the collector config. So the use case is a sensor that collects metrics from an HTTP endpoint and exports that as Prometheus metrics. Very simple, but requires some object-oriented programming, and Agentic Chat is able to understand that and modernize Java 8 to Java 21, which has a few best practices and design patterns. Now it's updating the HTTP metrics collector to use virtual threads, which is a Java 21 improvement or addition. And let's see what it does next. I mean, the good thing is we haven't written any source code yet, so you can see it's replacing 4 into for each. Okay, now I changed the virtual thread implementation. We now have not only an executor service, but a virtual thread executor. And it also follows the custom rules. So there are custom rules defined for GitLab Duo, Agentic Chat, and there's a style guide for Java as well. So it's following that and starts implementing the tests. And the pom.xml was updated to 21 and also using a new JUnit framework in version 5. And the last remaining bit is to also update the README to document the modernization, which is it's also doing now. And while it is doing things, let's scroll down in the debug log. It's doing great things. The README has been updated. Oh, now it's also updating the Docker file to Java 21 because it detected that. This is something it did not detect earlier. Now it's updating the GitLab CI YAML file. That's also great. So we can see it uses a new container image. And now it wants to actually compile that using Maven. So it understands it's using Maven and not Gradle. We can see build is successful. Now it wants to run the tests. Let's approve that. And we should see some tests failing. That's intentional. Now something has failed. There are test failures. Now it detected that it changed something that it shouldn't change and reverts that change. Now it wants to run the tests again. Let's see how it's capable of self-fixing it. I always find that very enjoying working with Agentic AI. And now the tests are okay, or like green. And the next step is to create a jar file and package that, which then runs everything again. So assuming that the tests now work, we can see, fingers crossed, tests are working. Yes, everything is okay. It will now create, yeah, exactly. And this is a new behavior in Agentic Chat, which I really appreciate. You can now run git checkout, or like it will automatically create a branch, a git commit, and then a merge request. So now it adds all the changes. And the next step is git commit, I would assume. And in my experience, it also creates a very detailed commit message. Oh, this is actually a very long commit message. But it's very verbose, so when you do a git log later on and you don't have any merge request history available, you still get to understand what happened in that git commit. And it's actually the git commit message was too long. It failed in the background, I guess. Yeah, and the next step is to push with tracking the remote origin to create a new branch. That's great. It also uses a telling name for the git branch, so you don't need to reinvent the wheel for that and create a different one. You can also use custom rules to by the way, instruct Agentic Chat which git branch format it should use. So whether it's a company policy or something else. And now it wants to open a merge request. Let's do that. Perfect. Now it completed the modernization, provides a summary for us, reports the tests, has a merge request, and it's ready for review. If we click on that now, and it's also beautifully implemented here